I love Five Nights at Freddy's. Even though I'm so far removed from that era where I just wanted to be a FNaF Fangame review channel, I still can't help offhandedly mentioning these games throughout my videos, and even outside my channel too, I still draw fan art of its characters every blue moon, and just like kind of keep up with the community and all the art and fun little fan projects that it spawns. It's something that's been with me for low-key a majority of my life. Since first grade, it'd feel weird for it to just leave. I guess it just finds new homes in my mind to occupy. I guess it's just something that itches every different part of my body, so it never really leaves ever. Whether it be the really in-depth mechanical explanation bullshit that makes me drool all over my keyboard, fucked up max modes, the occasional artwork I come across, or random relics of a bygone FNaF era that occasionally wash back up on the shores of my mind. I almost never get sick of thinking about FNaF and being a somewhat distant part of its community. This shit weirdly means a lot to me, the base Scott Click Team games, despite me not even liking most of them mechanically, but also and primarily the larger fan base. It's an entity that's watched me grow up, and every step of the way it's morphed to fit my needs and constantly be something I can look forward to being a part of. I guess you could describe it as something I can always fall back on. No matter where I am, if I fall, it'll be there to catch me. I love FNaF, and I don't really care if that makes me a nerd ass. With that being said, recently I've been absolutely slobbering over a new fan game called Five Nights at Frickbears 3, which I've been following for about a year now at this point, as I played its demo back in April 2025, and I've been subconsciously looking forward to and following the game since then, checking up on a little update post by its dev whenever I swept off the dust of my GameJolt account. So when it finally released, I was absolutely excited to try it out for myself, and after 4 playthroughs as of writing this, and surely plenty more to come, I can say for certain, this shit's so Peam. So I guess to start off, how Frickbears 3 works is it's a standard FNaF sit and survive game, but in between each night you get to roam around a new location and salvage a certain number of animatronics depending on your difficulty level. Each character does something wholly unique, and the main, I guess, selling point of this game is that scavenger hunt gameplay loop of scrounging up a bunch of new guys and playing a completely different little FNaF game each time. I remember Dormitibus tried doing this thing where it mixed and matched all of its animatronics throughout the nights to create a more unique experience. And that shit did not work because half the roster does the exact same thing, so the only difference really between nights is whatever hunk of shit you're looking at. Hunk of shit used lovingly here now, actually.
Does this mean a Dormitibus reevaluation is on the horizon?
And I really didn't know how well this aspect would appeal to me in Frickbears, but I really do think it feels different every time you run through this game. Each of my initial playthroughs, I had entirely different thought processes on how to go about my final night, whether it be just ultra stalling everything in the office and only opening the cams for resetting the music box because every time I pulled up the cams the entire house got mad.
Damn, I'll take 1 singular second to breathe.
Or just trying to scrape by the best I can before sending 2 clock power-ups to fling me to the end of the night, or just trying to beast mode 10 different camera threats while the whole house gets mad in my office. I didn't really know how well the replayability aspect of the game would be, but even though the core Frickbears 3 mechanics still stayed mostly the same, each playthrough still felt really distinct from one another, and I felt myself learning more and more about both the game's mechanics itself and animatronics I've been salvaging since like my first playthrough. Just having them show up in these different contexts and with different threats forces you to really reevaluate some of them and rewire your muscle memories. That constant dopamine rush of new knowledge and learning and growing is aided so much by the animatronic design, which is just so fucking good in this game. One of my favorites is Plushtrap, who is the character I've died to the most out of anyone according to the little stats page. But he is also kind of the embodiment of everything I just said and everything that I love about this game's animatronic design. This guy is a little shit, but I think it really says something that on like my 3rd playthrough with him, I was still learning new ways to fit him better into my strategies despite having such a simple mechanic. How he works is every time you flip down your monitor, he'll appear for a split second on your window and slide to either your left or right door, and you just have to flash whichever door he slides to. However, if you're not in a position to flash him at the moment, you can close the door to stall him before flashing him. That's all stuff that the game directly tells you about though, but Plushtrap's lore goes way deeper than that. On one playthrough I noticed I was getting killed by Plushtrap even though I didn't see him, which is understandable because a lot of shit can be blocking the window in this game.
Oh my god, oh.
But then sometimes I felt like I was just getting killed by him way faster than I should have been. So that's when I noticed that he kills you if you flash the side he isn't on. I thought you could just flash both sides and be fine. I'd actually been doing this for most of my camera flips at this point just to ensure I got him, but that doesn't work. You can circumvent this though by closing one door, flashing the open one, and then quickly opening the other and immediately flashing. This will never not get him, and it turned one of the most lethal characters on my runs into one I could consistently deal with every time. And I don't really care if it seems simple in hindsight, figuring shit like that out and being allowed to make these new strategies for such flexible characters like this after new ones come in, add to their difficulty, or get in the way is something about this game and FNaF games in general that I really adore. Playing like hard challenges or games forces you to really problem solve, and it's in my opinion one of the most underrated and rewarding aspects of stuff like this for me. And FNaF has always kind of been the most flexible in that regard, at least in the spaces I'm in. It takes some brainpower still to deal with him, but I feel like each night I had Plush Trap, I was handling him differently every time he appeared, each strategy being consistent and easily adaptable into whatever I was doing. A different example is Funtime Freddy, another favorite of mine, and he works similar to how he does in Sister Location Custom Night, but you have to pay attention to whether or not Bonbon is on his hand. If he is, you just shut the door he is on, but if he's not, you shut the opposite. It's obvious that one would then just think, if I shut both doors each time I hear his cue, there won't be any issues. But Bonbon is programmed to only bonk on the door when only his door is closed, and so now it's like, fuck, this character is actually really hard and I actually need to engage with his mechanic. But then you get back to pondering. I always struggled hearing Funtime Freddy's initial cue that he came to one of my doors and only heard his attacking cue, so I just fumbled and died to him or just accepted my fate because I didn't know what side he was on, so why bother? But if you close both doors, you can stall his entire attack, and what's preventing you then from checking him and seeing whether or not Bonbon is with him and then reopening the opposite door so he bonks? What felt like a mechanic added in to make Funtime Freddy more difficult got bent into a way to make him much safer to deal with at the cost of using a bit more power, and that shit makes me feel like a badass when I figure it out. It's not like Funtime Freddy as a threat was completely eliminated either, I was still interacting with his core mechanics as intended, and Funtime Freddy is still one of the hardest characters in this game, especially when a ton of shit's going on. But using this quirk of his against him to stall him out makes him way less of a threat and gives you the time to get your bearings before checking him. I think that mix of really punishing yet flexible characters is my favorite aspect of this game's animatronic design. Characters have these ways to check you, but at the same time you have multiple different approaches and there's always safety nets for them, and while Funtime Freddy and Plush Trap are definitely more prominent than others in that regard, I still feel like a lot of the animatronics in this game are multifaceted in some way. Anyways, this game gave me so many of those little aha moments for characters I've been dealing with for a while, or ones that have just been screwing me over consistently. I also really love how flexible camera usage is in this game. A lot of FNaF games fall into this pitfall where cameras are just wholly useless and more often than not just a death sentence to spend any longer than 2 seconds in depending on the game. FNaF 2 and UCN being the biggest examples because so much shit like kill timers are stalled until you open the cameras. In Frickbears 3, things kind of just happen and you deal with them as they happen, and I feel like that encourages way more camera usage since the cameras are no different from The Office aside from the fact you're looking at something different. If you're going to get jump scared by something, it would have happened by now, so it's almost always safe to open up cams if nothing is going on in your office. Additionally, characters like Plush Trap won't force you out of the cams or spawn while they're up. They will wait, and I think that balances the game out really well. There's this real fluidity with everything you do here. It all feels like it just flows so well, and camera usage is never just unnecessarily punished or relegated to just a thing you do every once in a while, not even for tracking purposes. Going into the cameras and surviving is still tied to your skill and speed to get what you need to get done quickly, but it doesn't needlessly overload you while you're in them by forcing it down or having something that needs immediate attention spawn while you're in them. Anyways, on top of the general camera system, I love the characters that populate them as well. Lots of standard tracking guys like Springtrap and Lefty, but also some more fun guys like Sparky and Popgoes, who are two of my favorites. Sparky activates every once in a while and requires you to click through the camera system and shock the cam where his barking sound is noticeably the loudest, and Popgoes stays in the dining room before thinking of a camera, then making a loud clanking sound to signify he moved to that camera where you'll then need to shock him. You don't need his little thought bubble beforehand, but it makes it a lot quicker than having to search all the surrounding cams for him. I really love how even though these characters don't require like traditional tracking akin to something like Springtrap in FNaF 3, you still need to take in info from these visually and auditorially. It's not just winding up a box or stalling a character or something, cameras genuinely give really important info a lot of the time and actually require like a decent amount of cognitive function. Even Funtime Freddy has that extra little thing of needing to see if Bonbon is on his hands or not, something that amidst the harder nights is really easy to slip your mind or for you to immediately forget after flipping cams down. While playing Frickbears, rarely did I ever feel like I was just stalling until something happened either, unless I specifically chose characters that created that kind of game loop. Even in a basic office sitting around waiting moment, there's still a lot you need to keep in mind, like show times or Popgo's next movement or what cam Mangle's on. And most of all, you need to be listening. Something I hate about UCN sound cues is that they're always max volume blasting into your ear, and like every single sound that plays means you need to do something. But Frickbears actually has some really subtle cues later throughout that can easily get drowned out. Springtrap, Foxy, and Funtime Freddy specifically always did for me. As well as sounds that you have to pay attention to the relative volume and panning of. Sparky was one, but Freddy is probably a better example. He makes a loud laughing sound whenever he's moved to your door, but he also just makes a laughing sound anytime he moves in general. So you need to learn what the laugh sounds like at its loudest when he's right outside and be able to pick up on its panning to close the correct door. Music Man as well has a cool sound mechanic. He plays fake sound cues throughout the night like Foxy running or Freddy laughing, but they're a slight bit lower than the actual cues. So if you can start picking up on that, which is a lot harder in practice by the way, Music Man becomes way less annoying and you can save more power not getting tricked by his bullshit. It's something you gotta experience for yourself, but even in the quietest moments of Frickbears, I'm never not thinking and focusing on what's happening around me or taking in info from my surroundings. Even the really mundane characters are just so fun too. Wizard Freddy has one of the simplest mechanics in the game, but early on he's an absolute menace in every playthrough you salvage him in. He bounces back between the left and right doors and you just need to ping pong him around by closing them. And it's such an obvious and simple mechanic, but I love how much focus he adds to the night and that extra tension in the cameras when he's close to one side but you have to check on something. I only realized this like yesterday, but Wizard Freddy stops his footsteps when he's in his bonk window, making it so you can tell when to close him off while in the cams at the cost of god level hearing ability. I also love the characters that have the same basic mechanics as they did in the original games, but just tweaked and rebalanced to be more fun or to fit the style of Frickbears more. Nightmarion and UCN is either the most annoying piece of shit in the game or just doesn't get in the way at all. But I really like how this game takes his central don't look at me mechanic, but just makes it way more fun and challenging instead of just annoying. Throughout the night he'll drop down on either side of the office and you just can't look at him until he leaves. I really like how he forces you to lock in for a brief period, since most of the characters that could appear on a side of the office have a sound cue attached to them, and you now solely have to rely on those. Or you can always just fully shut down the side he's on to free up some headspace, which I did a lot in my early runs and is especially helpful because of Nightmarion's constant droning sound he makes. Funtime Foxy has a showtime mechanic too, but instead of watching him, which even in a game like this would be a horrible mechanic, you need to just have the right door shut during his showtimes, which is a really nice change and way easier to fit into your strategy compared to watching his cam during showtimes. But to combat that extra flexibility, his showtimes appear on 15-second intervals instead of full hour intervals. However, him just coming to the door makes it much easier to keep the door closed every 15-second interval to ensure you never die. A much more power intensive method, sure, and honestly probably not even worth it in my opinion given how loose camera usage is, but if it's more comfortable to stall out in the office for you can always do this instead. I will say though, there is one animatronic in particular I don't like, and it's Malhair. Before talking about him though, I want to explain how Mangle works. Every time you pull down the monitor, Mangle chooses a random camera that you can't look at during your next flip. Look at her too often and she kills you. She can't appear on the same camera twice and won't appear on the camera you last left off on, incentivizing leaving the cams on a useful camera that you'll for sure need to see into whenever you pull them down, and doing a useless quick flip if she's in a bad position to save yourself later. And I actually really like how she forces you into those unnecessary cam flips that agitate characters like Plushtrap and Toy Chica, and how she makes the night more intense by just existing, as well as adding that extra thought during camera flips to end off on a useful cam. Checking which cam she's on is also really easy to forget and can get you in a sticky sitch. So yeah, I like Mango. I think she's a good character. Now Malhair though. Now this freaking guy. He limits how many times you can open up the cameras and that's all he does. This is mostly just a me core thing, but I hate this conservative ass playstyle he encourages and this restrictive ass mechanic when I loved how comparatively safe it felt to shut out in the cameras in this game. And when he's paired with Mangle and a lot of camera characters, it kind of just becomes the most asinine shit to play. My first run through of Night 6 Money Ending was extremely camera intensive, and with Malhair being active, I practically had to just ignore Mangle, and if she was in one of the cams, I needed to just thug it out, I guess, and deal with everything while Mangle is there. But Mangle's kill timer is cumulative, so it's not like you can just be quick on the cameras and be fine the whole night. You could argue he encourages grouping up characters during flips, but A, most characters require somewhat immediate action, and B, that's not really predictable, and the game is too fast paced to let, for example, Springtrap get further in his path so you can get him alongside like resetting the box or checking Funtime Freddy. And like, I really just don't know what Malhair like adds when you have him enabled. Like, he's just fucking either useless or just really annoying. I don't know. I don't understand what the point of him is. He fucking sucks! But like, other than him, there aren't really any other characters I think just suck or like add nothing. And it's really surprising that I found only one pair of animatronics that just go against each other in such an unfun way like this. The mask though is the last thing I have any issue with. I just don't really like its muffling effect. I literally can't play this game without the all ears upgrade. Like, this shit is so overbearing for me, and like, it's in a game that already requires you to keep really keen ears peeled for like variations in sound cues and to mentally separate those from characters that make like a drone or buzz when they appear, and a ton of other like useless sound cues later throughout. And they gave like the same exact effect that the muffling would do, but in a better and a more like, I guess, diegetic way. Give me the ability to play custom night with all ears enabled, and my life is yours, bro. I feel like such a chud for sucking this game off in every aspect, but I really feel like it appeals to all my FNaF Fangame fetishes. Shit was like vindicating to play, like I don't know, it was like finding someone that understands me. This video is almost at this point just an outline of what I find the most fun in FNaF Fangames, so just like whatever, man. Like I don't really want this thing to come across like Frickbears is so good that it makes everything seem worthless or whatever. If anything, it made me even more in love with everything in this series and makes me even more interested in dissecting the mechanics of these games in a more thoughtful way. I have love in my heart for every corner of this community, and I don't want to sound snobby and pretentious like I see myself as like above these lowbrow amateur FNaF fan games. Like Breaking the Magic isn't in my fucking like top 2 probably. Gameplay will never be everything for me, that's not really how I roll, and I hope I didn't come across cynical or anything. Anyways, back to Frickbears. I feel like a lot of my love of it could also be attributed to the game's art style, which I adore. Thick outlines, defined shapes, and such great characterization in each of these redesigns as well. I love Mango recapturing that rabid dog vibe that she had in FNaF 2 as her shape and body contorts into these awkward positions and her crazy ass unblinking eyes. I do miss the hulking body and how she dragged her weight across the floor that's implied by that shape and heavy movement sounds, but her spaghetti type design does let her contort her body more, so it's like a net exchange, I guess. The main 4 as well, I love. Freddy's all blocky and goofy, Bonnie's got this sleazy chain smoker vibe to him with his lanky figure and sunken eyes. He'd fit right into like a 60s jazz quartet, or maybe the Beatles is more accurate. Chica's so round and cute, I love how puffy all her feathers are. She's got real quaint southern mom energy to her. And Foxy's line work is all jagged and freaking sharp. Such great shapes for these guys, their designs make me drool a little bit. Plushtrap actually looks like a roughed up old plush toy, and I love how feral he is and the puff coming out of his rib stitching mimicking foaming from rabies. Skybaby is adorable too, and I can't even really add anything more than just I love her. Almost every redesign in this game is so good though, and either captures their already existing personalities really well or an entirely new one unique to this game. The night guards as well are great. Jeremy I think is just adorable, Mike is all big and gross, Vanessa is a cutie tootie as well, and Fritz is so freaky, and I really like how they turned him into this obsessive freako over Freddy's. He's also probably the one to make me giggle the most. His reaction to getting overtime as well as his introduction being just one singular line I thought was pretty silly. This will probably be where I segue into the writing and lore, which then segues into the endings. But I'm actually going to talk about the endings first because it's something I wrote later on that kind of fucked the structure and I don't want to change anything. Each ending, excluding the standard one, is equipped with their own unique final boss Night 6, and these Night 6 boss fights might just be some of my favorite bosses in any game I've ever played. I really like the one for Michael's ending where you deal with the nightmares while playing through this little platformer game. It feels so cool because this is the shit that Frickbears actually has been testing you on, whether it be through Toy Freddy, Scott, Coffee Pot, or just generally playing minigames to make more money throughout the night. Additional minigames combined with Sit and Survive is weirdly prevalent in this game, so like it actually makes a lot of sense to have a boss fight revolving entirely around it. We've been conditioned to know how to multitask like this, and I think it's just really neat. Not like that really matters that much. This could be in any FNaF fan game and I'd still find it cool, but it's specifically being a more fleshed out idea used throughout the entire game I just found really neat. People always say shit like boss fight test skills learned throughout the game, and majority of the time that's just bullshit, but like, oh my god, this is like what they're talking about. Like, it's like an actual like Salvage's boss fight 2 was one that really grew on me. I found it super frustrating at first because I was playing defensively and that was honestly doing the opposite of what I thought it would do, and I was just getting overwhelmed really easily. Once I started playing more aggressively though and taking advantage of the flashlight pushing him along his movement path, it became probably one of the most fun nights in any FNaF game I've played, and probably my favorite of the 4 boss fights, at least on a gameplay basis. I also really like how Salvage mimics behaviors of each animatronic that he's a hybrid of. Having the flashlight push him out of cameras like Springtrap, being deterred in the vents through what is essentially placing an audio lure on him like Lefty, getting shocked after sabotaging your power like Scrap Baby, and coming straight through either door like Molten Freddy. Cute shit. The money ending is fucking impossible and evil, and that's the main takeaway. And also like all the sister location characters are really good and like fun and well designed and shit. Then there's the ultimate ending, the most Peam shit to ever touch the FNaF community, I swear on everything. With this killer ass Frickbear design and this random ass WarioWare micro game set piece before the night itself, kinda scratches that Lomando itch for me with its monochrome semi-realistic semi-not assets and fucked up texturing. Love the carousel in the back, and the music is really good too. Not to mention And once it's all done, you get a genuinely really heartfelt ending conversation between Cassidy and your night guard that, despite its simple message of just moving on, is still really touching, and the characterization for each night guard on, how they approach Cassidy is great too. Fritz somehow having the sweetest ending conversation with her, Mike struggling to really say it that well, Jeremy using his past odd job experiences and having this really lighthearted and understanding tone, and Vanessa, who I was playing as, seeing parts of herself in Cassidy and maybe realizing these same things apply to her as she's telling them to her. I love how the story of FNaF is put into this much more grounded, contained, and digestible story here as well. Shit's going down in the pizzeria, and even though it's connected to FNaF lore, you don't need to know a lot about it to be able to enjoy the silly banter between characters or the actual genuine story trying to be told here. I appreciate what was done to breathe some life into a story that, in all honesty, I've never found worth sinking my teeth into, and I can attribute that so largely to how the night guards and Vanny and Michael are written here. The little credit sequence after getting this ultimate ending too just warmed my heart so much with all the cute art, and especially the drawing of Henry holding hands with the freed children, which is just so sweet. I like how it's somewhat of a tradition and maybe even an unwritten standard for these games to have some kind of extras menu to them. Full art of all the characters, descriptions, developer commentary, music players, statistics, trophies, concept art. This is really one of the most robust extras menu I've ever seen. So much to dig my little bunny nose into. I really love stuff like this, and I hate how in non-fan projects it's mostly relegated to dumbass unlockables or exclusive editions for most stuff. I don't know, at least I can find some solace in free-to-play Five Nights at Freddy's video games. All the added commentary is really fun to sift through and read. Creative process stuff like this is one of the most interesting things to me, and I love reading something and being all like, I saw the vision, yo. The soothing music too, it's like going through the Library of Alexandria, but if it was like the Library of Freddy Fazbear. It was this more reflective portion of the experience where it really set in how much I genuinely do care about this series and this game as well. Like I said, I've had a really long history with FNaF. I've been involved with this stuff since I was a sneeze old baby bunny. And being here at this moment right now, like, I don't know, it felt nice. Having this massive love letter to a franchise that occupies a core sector of my brain and just so happens to also appeal to literally everything about the series that I love while going out of its way to do shit that I never thought I would have cared about until playing this game. It's stuff like this that really puts into perspective the fact I've been in this shit for more than half my life. Maybe I'm too sentimental and mushy over this stuff, but I don't care. It matters to me, so whatever. I understand why people hate fandom spaces like this and don't want to be involved, but I don't know, seeing so much love for this game and feeling like a part of this community again, and being able to be proud of that and seeing all the art that was made for it, it made me remember how much I do care about shit like that, and it made me even more motivated to make this video. Being able to live in a moment like this is really special and something I feel like I've been missing. Deltarune, the last game I was really actively involved with when it came out, was cool, but like, I don't know, there's something specific about this game that makes me particularly mushy. Guess it's like a reconnecting with your younger self type thing, but I also just think I care a bit too much about this brown bear in all honesty. I can't even fully explain it myself. Why did the Chazington FNaF fan song keep me up for an extra hour the night I first watched it? I don't really know, but all I know is that this series and those feelings I have towards it aren't going anywhere. I still love Five Nights at Freddy's, and I'm happy that makes me a nerd ass. That's all. Thanks for listening to me. Bye!